Okay, so activity-based costing. So we start off exactly the same way as we did before. You take your selling price. This is exactly the same, yeah? This will be exactly the same. Where it's different is how your overheads are treated. Now your overheads, these, what they do is you basically, it's just a more sophisticated way, because absorption costing is quite crude. It just says, oh, there's one thing that drives the overheads. Yeah? One thing that drives the overheads. And that can lead to products being mispriced, where you say, well, actually, so what happens is generally they say, okay, labor hours are what driving the overhead costs. What activity-based costing is says, no, actually, individually, these costs are driven by different things. So, for example, customer invoice handling, well, that will be driven by how many customer invoices they are. Material handling costs, that will be driven by, how many orders there are. Okay? So that's generally more along the lines of what gets, and they try and break it out like that, as you'll see, and then you get a different price per product. And what you'll see is the profit per unit will actually be very different between these two, most likely, and that's because what's driving these costs is very different. Some of these products will use more and be more costly to run, and from a business perspective, than absorption costing allows for you to measure, because it just uses one measure. So activity-based costing, then we have to look at, so what it tells us here, and what this is telling us, is what's driving these costs. So it's saying this setup cost here, this 73,200, is driven by the number of setups. So, okay, number of setups, what does this say? And a key thing with activity-based costing you need to watch out for before I go into that is batch sizes. Yeah? So if my batch size is 1,000, that means, what that means is I can produce 1,000 units at a time. So if I can produce 1,000 units at a time and I need to produce 12,000, I have 12 batches. With deluxe, if I can only do 50 batches at a time, that quadruple, that's then 2,400 batches, yeah? So that's very different, okay? So that's key. You need to watch out for that, because you might need to use that later on, as we might see. So this says number of special parts per unit. Okay, so this says number of setups per batch. Number of setups per batch. This is where it's important. So what this is, so number of setups per batch. Okay, so that says 1, yeah? So batch size, 12. So number of setups. So you've got 12 batches, so 12,000 units, of which 1,000 are created in batch size. So you need to create 12 batches of this. And per batch, you only need to do one setup. So what you would do, okay, so we've got, oh, no, wrong one. Number of batches. So batches, let's work this out. So we've got batches, yeah?